Hi guys, I'm back again with another video. I'm just so happy to be in this location, but I just love being like right in front of a bookshelf. Like it's just something that just gives me that serotonin about sitting right here in particular, you know? So today I'm going to be recommending you spooky books. I'm sorry that this video is like in the middle of the month. You still got time. It's okay, you'll be good. We're just gonna hop right into it. So the first book I have to recommend is Undead Girl Gang, and I spilled some type of sauce on here and I don't know what it is, and I don't know how I spilled it because this is on the top of my bookshelf. I read this book when I first joined BookTube, and I just remember reading this book and I just had so much fun. So this book is basically about this girl, and she is a bruja, and her best friend dies, and everyone thinks that it is suicide, but she knows her best friend did not commit suicide. So she says, you know what, I'm gonna bring my bestie back to life, and she does, but two other bitches show up too. She didn't conjure 3 people and they're zombies, and so now all 4 of them are set to figure out who killed the best friend. But as they go along, they realize somebody killed the 2 other girls too, because it was also framed as suicide, and the 2 other girls are like popular girls that they don't get along with, and it's just like an unlikely friendship, which is one of my favorite tropes ever. And I just really like this book, and the plot twist at the end was good to me. I don't know if it was because like this was like my first year on BookTube, so I hadn't really read anything with like a lot of plot twists, but I ate this book up. It is so cute. It's YA. It's one of the only YA books set in high school that I love, but I think it's because it has that thriller aspect to it. And the next book I have is Someone We Know, and I talk about this in my September wrap up, but this is a thriller that I read recently, and this thriller is basically about a woman who turns up dead, and then the next day a wife finds out that her son has been sneaking into people's houses, and the synopsis says that he sends prank emails to everyone, and that sets off what happens in this town. But it's really not. It's about like a little small like neighborhood, like literally a street, and so you follow different people in this neighborhood. So if you don't like multiple perspectives, or you don't like too many multiple perspectives, I would say not to check out this book. But I loved it because you got to see everyone in their households and just how everyone thought, but it also hid the mystery from it. And the ending of this book was pretty good. It wasn't like the worst thing ever, but it didn't like amaze me. Well, it was like, it kind of did shock me, I'm not gonna lie, but the book was so messy. Like if you're like me and you love messiness in books, you are going to eat this up, especially the fact that it's a thriller. Like this is a perfect book to read. Horror Store. And this was another book that I read when I first joined BookTube, and I actually have a review of this book. This is my very first, I think this is my very first review I've ever done, and it's unlisted now, but if you go to my review playlist you should be able to find it. I looked really cute in that review, I ain't gonna lie, but my editing wasn't good, so never mind, don't check it out. But this is Horror Store, and I just loved this book. I gave it 3.5 stars, but because the thriller wasn't too well. But this basically is about this girl who works at this place, and it's called Orsk, I think, and it's basically a literal knockoff IKEA. Like that's literally what it is. Like that's what it's explained as in the book. And so one night she is set to stay there and work there overnight because they think that someone has been breaking in overnight. And so her and this other worker and then their boss are meant to stay there, and then 2 other people show up, and they're like ghost hunters. They want to be famous for being ghost hunters, so they're like doing their own ghost hunter show. And then creepy things start to happen, and I really like this because it's really set up like an IKEA book. So you have this, and then when you flip it on the inside, it has like a map, and I love me some IKEA too. It has a map, and then it has like what the store looks like outside. It has some instructions, and it has this thing that you can fill out, which I've been debating on filling this out for years. It also has pictures in this book. Like it has pictures of things like each chapter, but as the chapters go along, and it has like, it's just like a multimedia kind of book, because this isn't anything like, and as the story goes on they get scarier and scarier. I'm trying to find the one that's like really like creepy. There's this, because as she finds out like what's going on, and actually this book was actually really good. I don't know why I gave it 3 stars. Like I think actually I get it. Actually I get why I gave it 3 stars, because it was good, but towards the ending of the book it was just meh. Where's the creepy one? Okay, like this is creepy. Who's gonna sell that? I really enjoyed this book. This is fun. This is a fun book to read, like a fun quick book to read. The next book I have is Home After Dark, and this is the first Riley Sager book I've ever given 4 stars. I personally really enjoyed it. It really reminds me of Haunting of Hill House until you get into the book, and then it doesn't remind you of Haunting of Hill House. This basically is about this girl who grew up living in this house, and when she gets older, her dad is writing this story about things that happen in this house, and she does not remember it. Spooky things, by the way, ghost things, and she does not remember it. So she goes back to this house after her father dies because the house is passed over to her, and she's going to figure out like if those things really happened. I would have given this book 5 stars. It would have been a really good book, but I didn't like the ending. Like, there was an ending and then there was an ending. So there was like, when you find out the last plot twist, well, not the last plot twist, but right before the book is about to end, before you find out like what happens, that would have been great. But then it kind of like takes a turn on it. There is a specific scene in this book that everyone talks about, but I'm going to mention it too. It has something to do with cameras, and when I tell you, that scene freaks me out. One of the most iconic scenes ever written. Like, that is like a really iconic scene. Like, that is something really smart to write about. So the next book I have on this list is a book that's like on everyone's list probably, and that is The Diviners. If you don't know what The Diviners is about, first of all, The Diviners is about these kids who all have like special powers, and their main character specifically, she is set to move to New York, and there's this like spooky guy there, and he just kind of like is doing things. I have not read this book in a minute. I suggest listening to the audio of this book. In the book there's this song that's sung, and it's really, really creepy, and it will work well in the audio book, and it's just like such a creepy book. Yeah, so basically her parents make her move out of their house and into her house with her uncle who lives in New York, and people start to turn up dead, and I believe she has the power to read minds or something like that. It's not to read minds because that would just be way too convenient. Unless it is, then oops. But she has like a power, and it's really helpful, and then she comes across these other kids, and it's just, it was a fun book. I per se, like, it's a character driven book, so for me it was like a 3-star read, but a lot of people like live by this book. Next book I have is Small Spaces, and I love this book when I first read this. This book is a middle grade thriller, and it is about this girl who goes on this field trip, and their bus gets stuck full of these cornfields, like with the, what are they called? I think they're called cornfields, and it has these scarecrows, and the scarecrow, like one scarecrow like starts moving. Like, look at the scarecrow here. This cover is actually really creepy, and the scarecrow was like, they feel like the scarecrow is haunting them. And so I really like this book because the book doesn't start off with the bus stopping and being stuck. Like, it actually builds up to, it doesn't really happen to like the last few chapters in the book, I believe, but it like really builds up to that, and you get to know the main character and why she is the way she is, and you get to see this friendship develop and these found friends like happening. And it just wasn't like, oh, the book starts off with this and like you have to sit through it the entire time. So the next book I have is The Devouring Grey, and honestly I do not plan on finishing the series because the second book cover is ugly, and I don't do ugly book covers. After the death of her sister, the main character moves back to this town where technically she's never lived here, her mom has, so they moved back to this town, and she ends up coming across these other kids who are like founders kids, and I really like the idea of founders kids. So these founder kids all have special powers, but they're not all friends with each other. They used to be until something happens with the Devouring Grey, and Devouring Grey is kind of like the upside down in Stranger Things. And so this, honestly, this book is pitched as Stranger Things meets Riverdale. Season 1 Riverdale. Season 1 Riverdale was the best, period. And I think that that is one of the best pitches ever, because that's literally what this book is. And I liked it. It was a 4-star book. It just wasn't like, I really liked it. Like, it's a really spooky fall read. Like, this is like the perfect book to read in October if you haven't read it yet. The last 2 books on that list are my all-time favorites. So listen, I'm gonna just tell y'all. Y'all already know it's gonna be here. It's Ninth House. I recommended this in my last one, and I'm gonna recommend it again. Everyone has seen my fall recommendations video, so if you haven't seen it, read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Ninth House is about our main character Alex, who can see greys, which are ghosts, and she ends up going to Yale, and in Yale they have a secret society, and she is set to protect the people in this secret society, and she has to work with Darlington, and this big mystery is covering the book. I will say there are some trigger warnings. I will leave the website for the trigger warnings down below. This is my favorite book of all time, and I love everything about this book. I love dark academia. This book is amazing. And the last book I have on this list is A Deadly Education, and this just came out, and I love this book. This is on my all-time favorites list, okay? I love this book. I ate this book up. It was only 10 hours long on audiobook. I devoured it. Okay, so basically this book is about the girl named Elle, and she is half Indian, half English, and she goes to the school called School of Mans. Now in this school there is no teachers, there is no time off, there's something always trying to kill you. So there are things like you can't shower by yourself, because if you do, then the things are going to try to kill you. The popular kids in the school always go together, whereas other kids don't really have friends, so don't have people to shower with. So a lot, if you're not a popular kid, basically you have to go around the school smelling bad, because there are monsters always trying to kill you. There's, if you are out past your curfew, a monster's trying to kill you. If you sit by yourself at lunch, a monster's trying to kill you. So Elle is just trying to survive in the school, and a lot of people like her, and she don't like a lot of people either. So then she comes across Orion Lake, who has saved her life 13 times, and there is a prophecy that she is going to become evil, like one of the evil witches. It's just, the school is just like a lot of world building, and it's just really, really good. I don't think that this book will be for everyone, because this book does have a lot of world building, and most of the book is just, it's just world building, but I liked it because it was in a dark academia setting. Like, one of my favorite characters in this book is the school within itself, because it has the monsters, and then the school is set up like this. It's set up like a big circle, and so there's a void that surrounds it. And I literally spent like 15 minutes looking at this map. When I get a book, I love maps, by the way. When I get a book, I look at a map for a good 2 minutes, and I'm like, okay, cool. I spent so much time looking at this map, studying where everything is and all of that stuff, because I was so intrigued by it. And there's this thing that surrounds the school called the void, and the kids in the school are so evil. Like, somebody tried to kill Elle twice in this. Like, 2 different people tried to kill Elle. There's one person who tried to kill her in the beginning, and another person who literally just kept trying to kill her in the end. And then, like, everyone's just like, okay, cool. Like, it's just like, everyone's just like, oh well, she died. Like, and it's just so, the book is like, it's so interesting. Like, it's such a smart idea. It's really intriguing. And so there's even this thing where, like, if you want someone else's dorm, all you have to do is push them into the void. But like, if you come out of their room and everyone knows it's their room, they know you push them into the void. I ate this book up, okay? Like, I just enjoyed it so much. I thought that the school was so interesting. I really loved Elle as a character. I really understand her as a character, and I relate to her in some ways. Like, she did not like Orion, and the enemies to lovers relationship was so good. There's even this, it's kind of fake dating, but not really. She literally starts this rumor that they are dating, just so the fact that it can help her in the long run survive in the school. So literally everyone around the school believes that they're dating, and he doesn't even know it. So she'll do certain things to get a reaction out of him, because he just feels like he always has to save her, and so he's always following her and like trying to protect her. And because he's like the good guy of the school, and he's like, it gives you like grumpy ex-sunshine, because she's grumpy and he's like popular and everyone loves him because he's a little bit of a himbo. Like, I just love this book. Like, I've literally spent 5 minutes talking about it, so I loved it so much. I even have the Illumicrate edition, and then I bought the Owlcrate edition and the UK edition. So this will be the book that I own the most copies of. Like, I cannot wait to reread this book. I can't wait till the second book comes out in July. I love this book, and I know that it has some controversies around it, but I will say to check the book out for yourself before you form any opinions around the book, because I don't think the book is what everyone's making it out to be. But obviously I can't tell people how to feel, and I can't tell people what to like and what not to like. But I would say give the book a try, and if you don't like it, I will understand, because the book does have like a lot of world building, but I think that the school itself was just really, really interesting, and it was my favorite thing to learn about. And I just really loved Elle as a character. She's one of my favorite female characters now. She's literally on my list for bad bitch characters. And yeah, that's it for this recommendations video. I hope that you liked it. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Like, dang, bitches.
Like, damn.
What
the fuck were you filming?
Okay, listen, so this is what happened, right? So when I came back upstairs after making my bacon, I realized my camera wasn't charging the entire time. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just